Refugee Boy by Benjamin Zephaniah.
Chapter 5 Welcome Home. The children's home was situated on the outskirts of Reading. It was an old building that had been through many uses. It had originally been built and owned by a wealthy merchant who had sold it when he could no longer afford to run 4 mansions. Since then, it had been used as a tuberculosis isolation hospital, a home for the elderly, a yoga retreat, and a bostel. The moment Alim arrived, he hated it, although it was the kind of building that he could have really liked. It had a long drive leading to it, and with the knowledge Alim had gained from reading books on architecture, he guessed it was Victorian. 2 large stone lions guarded the main doors, and much of the grey stonework was covered with creepy ivy. The green surroundings were idyllic, but Alim just had a bad feeling about the place. It was as if he knew that the place had a pretty bleak history. Something made him feel that he wasn't going to be having a great time there. Mariam stayed for only 15 minutes before saying goodbye and promising to visit Alim soon. It was left to Sarah Cohen, a middle-aged blonde woman, to introduce him to his new home. "We have 86 boys staying here, and I know the name of every one of them," she said proudly. "My name is Sarah, and there are another 7 members of staff here. All the boys call us by our first names. The staff are never all here at the same time, of course. Some prefer night duty, some the day shift, but you could find that all the staff are friendly and willing to help you." Alim showed no emotion as he looked around the drab office. He had only one thing on his mind, and he said it. "When am I leaving here?" "I must be completely honest with you now. I don't know. No one knows. What I do know is that Mariam and her colleagues will try their best to make sure that you don't stay here a moment longer than you need to. But while you are here, I promise that we will try to make you as comfortable as possible." Alim heard the sounds that came from her mouth, but he was not listening to her, and she knew it. "Come on," she said. "Bring your bag. I'll show you around." They left the office and began to walk the timber-panelled corridors. In places, the highly polished wooden floor creaked, and as they progressed, Alim began to hear activity in the distance. The staff offices are out of bounds to the boys, unless they are invited, of course, but most of the staff spend very little time in the office anyway. They turned a corner, and she opened a side door. The noise hit Alim. It was like an explosive attack upon his ears. The large room was full of boys. In one corner, 4 boys played table football with a small group cheering them on. In another corner, a group of boys took turns using handheld consoles to play each other at Street Fighter on a television screen. 2 boys were chasing each other around the room for no apparent reason, while others watched a football match on another television. On the other side of the room, board games were being played, and other boys just stood around shouting at each other. From all this tumult, 2 male adults emerged and headed towards Alim and Sarah. Sarah had fully entered the room, but Alim still stood near the door. "Come in, Alim," said one of the men as he stretched his hand out towards him. Alim was surprised by the man's very casual use of his name. Alim lifted his right hand nervously. He wasn't used to shaking the hands of adults, but he went for it. The man shook vigorously, too vigorously for Alim's liking. "My name is Tom Whitaker, but the boys just call me Tom. How are you?" "I am fine, thank you," Alim replied unhappily. Tom was in his late 40s, his brown hair tinged with grey. He was wearing purple corduroys that looked as if they had been handed down from one generation to another, and a large black and white jumper that looked as if he had wrapped a whole sheep around himself. He looked genuinely excited to see Alim, which made Alim worried. He wasn't in the mood for excitement. "Well, Alim," Tom said, looking around the room, "these guys may look wild, but they're all right when you get to know them. We have our problems, but who doesn't?" The other man stretched out his hand. He was in his late 20s, in jeans and a sweatshirt, and had completely shaved off his hair. "Hello, my name's Dave." Alan shook his hand. "I'm new here, so we're kind of in the same boat. It's only my second day." Alan had another glance around. Since leaving Eritrea, he had not seen so many young people in one place. He realized how much he missed the sound of his own generation, but he wondered how he would get on with these teenagers. They all seemed so confident. He could see that the boys came from all racial backgrounds. He had never seen such a mix of boys in one place. Then he saw one boy who was alone, sitting on a chair away from the other boys, just staring at the wall in front of him, with his eyes wide open. Tom noticed that Alan was looking at the boy. That's Mustafa. Nice boy, but he's a bit of a loner, Tom said. Sarah began her tour guide routine. "This is the recreation room. Most of us spend most of our time here. Some of the boys have gone on a hill climb for a couple of days, but they'll be back tomorrow. Anyway, this is where the action happens. We have a variety of things to keep you occupied, and we always welcome ideas to keep the boys busy." "See you later," said Tom. "Take it easy," said Dave, and they both walked off, leaving Sarah to it. "We're very open-minded here," Sarah continued, "but we only allow smoking in the smoke room for those that are over 16. We don't allow knives on the premises, and mobile phones will be confiscated. Alcohol is never allowed, and we will not tolerate drugs of any kind. In fact, if anyone is caught breaking the law says that we should report them to the police, and we do." She turned and walked past Alan, back into the corridor. "Come along, I'll show you where you'll be sleeping." She pointed out the toilets and the small room known as the quiet room where boys could sit and read. There were no books or boys in there. Then she opened another door. "This is the smoking room." 3 older-looking boys looked towards them from the smoke-filled room. "Hello, boys, this is Alan," she said, waving the smoke away from her face. One boy raised his hand. Alan wasn't sure whether he was saying hello or waving them away. Another just pulled on his cigarette, and the third one smiled wickedly and said, "All right?" "Yes," Alan replied, trying not to breathe in too deeply. "We'll soon see to that," the boy replied, nodding his head in assent to a question that had not been asked. "Very funny," Sarah replied, closing the door and continuing the tour. Upstairs, Alan was taken into a large room with about 15 beds in it. Alan looked horrified. He hated the idea of sleeping in a room with so many others. "This is the large dormitory," said Sarah. "Some boys like being together like this, and that's okay, as long as they behave. This is the biggest room we have, but it doesn't suit everyone, of course. Follow me." She walked into another room which was much smaller, with only 2 beds. "This is where you'll be staying. You'll be sharing with one other boy, a nice boy about your age." She walked over to a bedside locker and patted it as if it were a docile pet. "This is your personal locker. You will have your own key, but if you have anything really valuable, you should let us keep it in the office." Alan had absolutely nothing to say. He hadn't known what to expect, but he didn't expect this. He kicked his bag under his bed. "Okay," said Sarah. There was no reply. She tried again louder. "Is that okay, Alan? Do you have any questions?" Alan just shook his head and looked downwards. "Good," she said cheerfully. "It's almost time for our late snack. Then you will have a chance to meet some of the other boys. Soon after the snack, it's bedtime. It's a pretty straightforward routine. By tomorrow dinner time, I'm sure you'll have made a few friends. It's always difficult to get used to a place like this. It takes time." The late snack wasn't anything special, and Alan didn't want anything anyway. Tom and Dave took digestive biscuits and tea around on trays to the boys in the large recreation room. But when Tom offered Alan some, he declined. Alan watched as the boys ate the biscuits and drank their tea. As he watched, he was approached by one of the boys he had seen earlier in the smoke room, the one who made the remark to him.